7:17 is your time. This morning, former President Donald Trump faces a list of felony charges. A D.C. grand jury is moving forward with accusations of conspiracy to defraud and efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. So, question is, what happens next, and how could it impact Trump's chances of running for president again? Joining us now is friend of the show, defense attorney A. Scott Bolden, to break down what this indictment means and what we can expect. Good morning to you.
Haven't we had this conversation before about Donald Trump?
A little bit of deja vu.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, you know, this one is really striking. 45-page indictment. What to you, I would say, from your legal perspective, stood out the most?
It's 45 pages, and it's got 6 co-conspirators. They may still be indicted, but Donald Trump conspired to obstruct the one-man, one-vote, obviously, to defraud the U.S. He conspired to obstruct the certification process in the U.S. Senate, as you recall, and then he undermined the state elections and tried to get them to change the results of those votes. This is really damning and a really coordinated attack on our democracy. So I think the co-conspirators who are talking, who could be indicted or who could be cooperating. So there's more to come on this these indictments.
You know, there were 4 indictments. One that was missing intentionally, so it wasn't an oversight, of course, is him being indicted on charged with insurrection. Why is that?
That's probably tougher in the sense, but it's going to be part of the trial because all of this multi-pronged attack by Donald Trump and his conspirators, including the people and his supporters attacking the Capitol to stop the certification of those results. Remember, Mike Pence was the subject and target of the protesters. That's not in there because that's just a little messier. You could do it if he went to the Capitol and was leading the charge, and that just didn't happen. This is very legalistic, but it's safer, it's easier to prove, and he can get up to 20 years if he's indicted or rather convicted on any one of these charges.
You know what's interesting in all of this, Pence and the vice presidency is mentioned over 100 times. That's a lot. What does that say about the role that he's going to be playing in all of this, the VP, former VP?
Well, he's going to be a big witness as this case gets tried. His life was threatened, if you will. And then part of the indictment is about Trump talking to him several times, trying to get him to undermine the certification process. They created these fake electors and sent them to the Senate and said, listen, this creates a controversy, a fake controversy. And then they went to court, but then they were trying to get senators to raise questions about it so that the senators could go into committee and meeting to determine which electors were fake and which ones were real before you could have the certification process. This sounds like a constitutional course in law school, but the bottom line is this. He allegedly did a lot of things wrong to undermine our democracy.
So, you know, it's interesting. You see what the prosecution is trying to lay out. I wonder what's the defense's response going to be, aside from, you know, this is a witch hunt and the usual when it comes to Trump. Can they push back on intent, that he just didn't know?
That he deeply believed that he had won the election based on what his lawyers told him and others, that deep belief in his First Amendment to raise these issues would be a full defense. But the criminality, the bad acts, right? Affirming bad acts to undermine the elections when he was told several times by DOJ, by his advisors, even by his lawyers, by other agency heads, that there was no criminal conduct here, or rather there were no fake elections or there were no fake votes, and he lost the election. That flies in the face of that defense. You'll hear a lot about what was wrong with the elections as part of his defense, but it's going to be in Washington, D.C., and I got to tell you, juries like to do the right thing, but the attack on the democracy, no matter what your background in politics is pretty serious stuff.
You know, we know the law is designed to treat everyone as equal. Trump is a different kind of defendant. It won't change the way he's treated, but certainly he's running for president again. How does this affect his chances in doing so?
Well, for the nomination, it doesn't seem to be having any effect. He's going to raise a lot of money, but he's spending a lot of money on legal fees. From the criminal justice system standpoint, he's going to be treated like everyone else. I've represented elected officials who are running for office under indictment. It's hard to stay in the race because the legal pressure, the political pressure, and the communication messaging don't work in unison. They work against one another. The more he talks about this case in his political campaign, the more he hurts his chances as a defendant because those are party admissions. And the more he gets indicted, he's up to like 75 right now, the harder it is for him to get independents and even moderate Republicans to support his candidacy.
So far, he is leading significantly. DeSantis is a distant second. We got to wrap here, but I do want to ask you about the historic nature of this, to witness a former president being indicted on this. Not the first time he's being indicted, but just speak to that really quickly.
It's the first time that he's been indicted for bad acts while he was in the office. That's historic. But the historic attack on our democracy and this multi-pronged approach, including leading up to the attack on the Capitol, is really significant and historical.
It is really interesting to see what's unfolding here, certainly from a legal perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Even as a layperson.
But as a voter and a citizen, all of us ought to be looking closely at this.
All right. We appreciate your insight. Thank you, as always. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.